Hello, welcome back. My name is Louise. I am an actor and an audition coach, and this channel is dedicated to talking about all things auditions, navigating the industry, and what it's like to train as an actor in the UK. Now, this video is going to be talking all about choosing particular monologues for drama school auditions, but being really specific about the fact that you can actually choose monologues of characters of genders that you don't necessarily identify with. And I'm going to preface this by saying that this is just specific to drama school auditions instead of industry level auditions. And I'll give various different reasons for that in a second. But to begin with, I have been teaching audition prep and monologue work for years now. And each time the students bring in new material, they're unaware of the fact that they can actually choose material of a gender that they don't necessarily identify with. And this is actually especially true for classical texts, so your Shakespeare or your Jacobean texts. And actually, drama school auditions are the perfect environment to kind of branch out and try a different speech by a gender that you don't identify with. When it comes to the kind of Shakespeare or the Jacobean speeches, there are a few monologues that you'll probably want to avoid just because they're not applicable to a drama school audition environment. So it kind of restricts the amount of speeches that you actually have, because check it out, Shakespeare isn't writing anymore, he died a little while ago. So if you're just doing speeches of the gender that you identify with, and that narrows your choices down quite severely. So if you identify as being female, then that means that you can only do the female Shakespeare audition speeches, which is pretty boring and quite restrictive. So by actually being able to kind of go, wow, I've got the possibility of doing whatever gender is out there for my Shakespeare speeches, then it gives you more opportunities, it gives you more material, it gives you a different thing to try. You know, you might say, oh, I'd love to do like an Angelo speech from Measure for Measure, or I'd really like to do a Juliet speech from Romeo and Juliet, but you're kind of like, oh, but I'm not female, therefore I can't do that. And it doesn't make any sense to me. In my mind, I kind of go, well, if you are passionate about the speech, if you feel a draw to that material, then why not do it for a drama school audition? Because the thing is, drama schools are not actually auditioning you for a role. They're not auditioning you for a particular character in a production. They're auditioning you to see what your capability is, what your talent level is, and whether you would actually thrive in a training environment. So they're looking to see how you would actually navigate a piece of text. They want to get a sense of you as an artist. And if that means that you're choosing a speech that you wouldn't necessarily ordinarily choose, then that's okay. Now, the reason I say that I wouldn't necessarily do this for the industry is probably because you will be given a casting breakdown of the character that you're auditioning for. And although the industry is shifting and changing, and it's starting to kind of embrace this idea of doing more gender blind or gender bended productions, especially again for the classical stuff, so you might actually find after training that you won't really be approaching texts and characters that aren't of the gender that you identify with. And it might also not be as common to do gender blind or gender bended productions within training as well. So if you know that you're going to be somewhat limited in terms of the characters that you're going to be cast as, both in training and in the profession, you have the license, you have the authority and the power to choose your own material for your drama school audition. So don't think that you have to restrict it because of gender. There are, however, some things that you need to think about with your speech choices. Make sure that whatever speech you're choosing, regardless of gender, that you are choosing a speech that you are passionate about, something that you actually really like and want to explore. Don't think that by choosing a speech of a gender that you don't identify with, that would be kind of risque or edgy or would kind of set you apart from people. It doesn't. It is just a speech choice. It is just a material choice. So make sure that you're not just choosing that for the sake of it, because that might be a wasted opportunity, because it might not be a speech that you feel an instant draw to. So the speech has got to be chosen for a reason, whether that is the subject matter or the character or the actual story or what's being explored, whatever that is, make sure that you have a reason for it. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. So when it comes to your drama school audition speeches, as a panel member, I always want to see an element of truth within your work. So truth usually comes from this idea of lived experience, that our own lives as humans will inform our performance on stage. So if you were choosing a speech with a character that is of the gender that you do not identify with, and that speech happens to be about the experience of living as that gender, then I would avoid it. So, for example, if you take Emilia's speech from Othello, so it starts with, "But I do think it is their husbands' faults if wives do fall." say that they slack their duties and pour our treasures into foreign laps, or else break out in peevish jealousies, throwing restraint upon us, or say they strike us, and scant our former having in despite. Why we have galls, and though we have some grace, yet have we some revenge. Let husbands know that wives have sense like them. They see and smell and have their palates both for sweet and sour, as men have. This speech is clearly about the experience of experiencing the world as a female and being in this time seen as lesser or secondary to men. Now, there are definitely parallels with this in our modern day world. If you check out kind of what's happening in the US in terms of reproductive rights, etc., etc., that's very much still the experience of people who identify as women across the world. So, if you as an individual do not have that lived experience in terms of gender within your life, then it's going to be even more of an imaginative stretch to embody that in the moment. So I would kind of say probably avoid a speech that has that as a specificity within it. If, however, the speech doesn't actually discuss gender as a kind of subject, then it's usually okay to do. So if we took Edmund's speech from King Lear, I'm using all the classical ones as examples just because it's the one that I encourage people mostly to actually do in terms of if you're going to choose something that is of the gender that you don't identify with. So we check out Edmund's speech. Thou nature art my goddess, to thy law my services are bound. Wherefore do I stand in the plague of custom and permit the curiosity of nations to deprive me, for that I am 12 or 14 moonshines lag of a brother. So he's saying that he's 12 or 14 moonshines lag of a brother. He says he's a brother. The mention of the word brother, or the kind of the word that is very much synonymous with being male, because the speech itself is not necessarily about gender, you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to think, okay, well, it says brother and I'm not a brother, therefore I can't do the speech. That's not part of it. Gender has nothing to do with that as a speech in particular. It's about the injustice of one sibling getting everything over the other one, and the fact that that is unfair. So in conclusion, make sure that if you are choosing a speech of a gender that you don't identify with, make sure that the subject matter doesn't surround gender and the lived experience of that. It's just more of an imaginative leap to get to that as lived experience. But in the end, when it comes especially to your classical speech material, really just look outside the bounds of what you would normally be kind of dictated and kind of sent down the avenue to do purely because of gender. Know that you've got so many more possibilities and opportunities to bring material to your drama school audition that isn't going to be dictated by a casting. So if there's a speech that really rings true to you for whatever reason, then go for it. If it's something that actually you feel that you have a kind of standing in and you can really bring to life, then go for it. You shouldn't be held back on the presumption that you're not allowed to do it on the basis of gender. So with all of that in mind, if you enjoyed this video and you found this information really valuable, then just make sure that you click like, that you subscribe to the channel for more insight as the videos kind of keep rolling out. Know that you can send me questions and comments in the comments section down below. I'm really excited about kind of communicating with you all, so just make sure that if you've got a question, fire it off to me and I will get back to you. But until next time, happy speech searching, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.